Hi, I'm Dan Small. Welcome to Deer Hunt, Wisconsin. This is our 34th annual special to help you get ready for Wisconsin's gun deer season. Coming up, we'll talk to successful hunters, update you on new rules, learn how to reload deer cartridges, look at efforts to recruit new hunters, and provide a hunting forecast for each region of the state. We'll also feature photos you sent us of your hunts. All that and a couple of surprises coming up on Deer Hunt, Wisconsin 2024. It's no secret that hunter numbers are declining. Wisconsin sold nearly 700,000 gun deer licenses just 25 years ago, and today that number's closer to 500,000 and it's shrinking every year. Many groups are working hard to recruit new hunters. Kids and Mentors Outdoors, or CAMO, holds a hunt in December every year for young hunters. Dedicated to the late Joe Stecker-Koshansky, the CAMO hunt is held at the McKenzie Center near Poynette.
CAMO stands for Kids and Mentors Outdoors. In the late 80s and all the 90s, I noticed there weren't a whole lot of kids in fishing boats and out hunting and trapping like there were when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s. And so I came up with an idea in 2006, and my idea was to start a multi-chapter organization that gets kids into the outdoors on both one-on-ones and group events, where we take kids on outdoor experiences.
My relationship with the group started by accident back in 2011 when I was going through the Meadow Valley State Wildlife Area, and I noticed a group had erected a temporary shelter to hunt out of. I ended up getting a hold of members of the group and invited myself to some of their meetings and expressing my interest in forming a chapter in the La Crosse area, and it actually worked out.
We had no idea what we were going to do. It was, didn't know anything about bylaws, insurance, anything whatsoever like that, but we had a lot of energy. And we figured this all out. And then in the fall of 2008, we were a year and a half old, we held our first Joe. That's this hunt that we're doing right now. It's a great event. Joe Stecker-Koshansky is a great man. He was really one of my mentors for creating this. He did not want to be an officer in CAMO, but he taught me a lot about just being level-headed, not giving up. Very wise man. 4 years it was rocking and rolling, and then Joe had a heart attack and passed away. And that's when we named it after Joe.
It's the same weekend in December every year, and we can actually take up to 25 kids who need to be supported by 25 mentors. And since we serve food, we stay 2 nights, rely on landowners outside the property of McKenzie, it's a big deal.
These private landowners are happy to welcome CAMO hunters on their land to help control the local crop-eating deer population and maybe even a bonus species.
Last year I did not get anything. This year I actually got something, but it wasn't a deer, it was a turkey. I got a turkey tag, and then the owner has so many that they let us shoot one, or a couple.
We operate this hunt as a Learn to Hunt, which is a program that the DNR runs and gives novices an opportunity to see what hunting is all about without having to have a hunting license, without having to hunt actually during a regular season when it would be real crowded. Then at the end of the experience, they should be able to answer the question, is hunting for me or not?
We do the one-on-ones and we do group events, large like this, but a lot of them is just 2 adults and 4 kids. It's really varied. Some of these kids are active outdoorsmen, and it's a club for them. Their parents are active with them, or an uncle or a neighbor, but a lot of our kids here are single parent. They're just generally just too busy, earning a living and raising kids and doing what they got to do. And so they reach out to CAMO, or we reach out to them.
The word gets out how rewarding it is for both the adults and kids involved. Here we are today with 23 hunting pairs, and I believe the last number of deer I heard was 21.
You know, like an event like this is about $5,000 for us, just right up there. It's $100 a piece to get those deer butchered. There's 22 of them on the pole. There's $2,200.
We actually take the trouble to distribute all that packaged meat so that each kid gets an equal amount, no matter if they got a deer here or not. So that's priceless, really.
Throughout the show, we'll feature some photos that you sent us from your hunts. Here's the first of them. Learn to Hunt events like the Camo Joe Hunt can be held at any time of year. We'll look at other efforts to recruit new hunters later in the show. Right now, let's look at season dates and other rules that apply to most hunters. This year, the 9-day firearm season runs from November 23rd through December 1st, and that's the latest possible opening date under the current season framework. After that, there's the muzzleloader season for 10 days, then the statewide 4-day antlerless hunt, and then the 9-day antlerless-only holiday hunt in farmland zone counties shown on this map and on page 11 of the hunting regs. You'll find these season dates and all the deer hunting regulations in this booklet available at any license center and on the DNR website. The DNR hunting webpage also has links to the regulations, shooting hours, public lands, game registration page, CWD sampling locations, Go Wild, and more. Here's what's new for this year. The list of counties closed to deer baiting and feeding changes depending on where new cases of chronic wasting disease are found. Check the DNR website for updates. 41 counties will offer the antlerless-only holiday hunt, and the archery and crossbow seasons have been extended to January 31st in 35 counties. Ashland and Iron counties are the only units where hunters may shoot only bucks this year. Junior antlerless tags are still valid in those two counties, though. Many units are offering more antlerless tags this year, and air guns are now legal for hunting all game in Wisconsin. Big bore air guns are legal for deer hunting in Wisconsin now, so we thought we'd learn more about them by coming to the Serpent Arms test range.
So what we have for you today is a pre-production model of our 50 caliber PCP air rifle. We are currently working on 50 caliber and 457 models. The 457 should be available before fall hunting season this year. Unlike your normal firearm where the bullet is propelled by gunpowder, this is propelled by air. So back here is our canister, which holds 4,351 psi of air pressure. I have a spare tank here. So this is the valve system. So when you pull the trigger, it releases the hammer, which opens the valve, and that's what fires the projectile.
Okay, and PSI, that's pounds per square inch, right?
Correct. And for comparison, your average car tire is about 50 psi, where we're at 4,350 psi.
Quite a bit more pressure.
Yes.
Well, Kevin, how does this actually shoot?
So this down here is your cocking lever. You push this forward, that sets the hammer and opens the breech so you can load a round in. When you're doing that, you're also actually setting the trigger safety so the gun cannot fire. After you would load your round in, you'd slide it into the edge of the barrel here till it's snug, till it catches. When you go to close this, there is a secondary safety here, so this cannot close on your finger. So you flip that up and close it.
Nice.
And as I mentioned, the safety is already set. Now you'd be ready to aim at your target and shoot.
So let's load around.
For this model, we use 50 caliber muzzleloader bullets. The ones we have today are 245 grain power belts. So we'll get one out and get you loaded up. So you just push it in until it's snug and you should be good to go. And then it'll be ready for you to fire.
What about hearing protection?
So you do not technically need it. Our gun averages around 100 decibels, so we are within safe levels. We do have it available for you here today for shooting at the range for extra protection, but when you're out in the woods, it would not be a concern.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to put them on just for fun because I've never shot this gun before.
Absolutely.
And, of course, eye protection, right?
Yep, and I've got my safety glasses here, and you've got some on. We have a chronograph set up here, too, so it'll show us the projectile velocity at the muzzle and downrange at the target.
All right, well, let's see what it can do. little kick to it. How many shots do you get with a tank like this?
So you'll get 2 shots per tank with this version. I did fire this before you got here, so we will have to change this tank out or charge it up before we shoot again.
All right, so how do you do that?
Sure, I'll go through changing it since I have a spare right here. So you simply loosen this set screw here, unthread the expelled tank, and pick up the fully charged tank, put her in there, thread it back in, tighten the set screw up, and we're good to go. When I'm out in the field hunting, I usually carry one of these in my backpack with me, so I have 4 shots available.
And 4 ought to be enough for deer hunting.
I would hope so.
Well, Kevin, this is fun to shoot. Now, what's the range and what's the killing power of a gun like this?
So right now we're shooting at 50 yards. These guns are accurate out to 100. People use big bore PCPs like this for large game all the time. So deer, bear, elk, moose, you name it, people have shot it with it.
All right, and what's your market for this gun?
I think women and youth for sure, because it's lightweight, lower recoil, less noise, as well as a lot of experienced hunters looking for a new challenge.
And maybe old guys like me. In fact, during the youth hunt in October, Kevin's 10-year-old son Eli was, as far as we know, the very first hunter to legally take a deer in Wisconsin with an air gun. Right after his hunt, I interviewed Eli by phone for my radio show and podcast. So Eli, tell me about the hunt. Where were you?
We were in Montello,
Okay. What kind of land were you on?
private property.
Were you in the woods, in a field? Where were you?
We were hunting over a food plot.
All right.
We were in a blind.
And who was there?
My dad and Paul Brown.
I know Paul. How did the day go? Tell me about that.
We went out at 4:30 and we bumped some deer off food plot, and we waited for about 15 minutes in the stand. Then a fawn came, but it never came close enough to shoot, and then it went away. And then at about 5:30, we watched a buck and a young deer walk around and eat on the food plot. At around 6 o'clock, the deer that I shot and one other came out and slowly weaved its way over to about 30 yards. And then I shot it. It jumped up and ran back to the woods. Then we waited and came back after dark and found it. It was pretty cool being the first person to shoot a deer with an air rifle. I think it's awesome.
You may purchase your license and select your free farmland zone antlerless tags, now called harvest authorizations, online through the Go Wild system or from any licensing agent. With each deer hunting license, you'll receive 1 buck tag valid in any unit statewide and 1 or more farmland zone antlerless tags valid in the deer management unit and land type of your choice. Bonus antlerless tags went on sale in August, and they're sold out in some units, but many are still available, especially for public land. While hunting, you must carry proof that you have a license and tags, and that can be a Go Wild conservation card, your authenticated driver's license, printed copies of your license and tags, or digital copies on a smartphone or tablet. Register any deer you shoot by 5 p.m. on the day after the deer is recovered. You'll need your tag number to do that. You can do it online or by phone. Instructions are right on the tag. You may also register a deer at participating walk-in stations. Find a list on the DNR website or look for one of these deer registration signs. The Bill Cook chapter of the Isaac Walton League of America recruits new hunters with an annual Learn to Hunt event near Stevens Point.
What makes this Learn to Hunt program special is the partnership we have with Portage County Parks. It's not only a whitetail Learn to Hunt program, but it's also a population control program. Because of the multi-use of the property, with the bikers, the hikers, the cross-country runners. This population deer is not huntable 363 days a year. This is one of the biggest, safest areas that we could hunt in the county and still have it as public access.
The Standing Rocks Park is located here in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. If you look through the grounds, you don't see a lot of underbrush. You don't see a lot of small trees. Most of it's mature trees. We've had an overpopulation of deer. Our program is open for anybody who has not had a deer license before. We've got people that are in their 40s.
I always want to go hunting, but on the West Coast between workouts, deployments, never had a chance. And then once I got out, we moved back to Wisconsin. And then he took an interest in shooting, took him through hunter safety. We heard a gunshot go off this morning, and then I'm asking Pete, who's my mentor for the hunt, I said, did you hear anything yet? Did you hear anything? And I see I have a text from my son that says, I killed my first deer. And at that moment, my first initial thought was, that's awesome, I'm so proud of him. And my second thought was, well, he outdid me, he got his first deer before me, so. But yeah, it was an awesome feeling.
Well, I see the does first, and I know they're like running from something. So I'm just waiting, I'm preparing, and then I see the big buck come out, and I just go for that instead, because, well, why not, right? It's a bigger deer, might as well. We went out there at 7:10. By 7:30, I shot and killed my first deer, and it was pretty exciting. I mean,
we're doing good for the park, reducing some of the herd population, and yet we get to enjoy their enthusiasm when they harvest their first deer.
I would definitely encourage the mentor experience because you have that person there that knows a lot about it instead of just maybe even trying to do it yourself and learning yourself. And if you do shoot a deer, it's a really good feeling too.
I feel it's very important to get future generations involved. The hunting, the fishing, the hiking, the birding, you name it, it's all there. And we have to teach that.
An organized event like that is one way to introduce someone to hunting, but a licensed hunter over the age of 18 can actually mentor a new hunter of any age. For details, visit the DNR website, keywords mentored hunting. Here are some stories from several youngsters who started hunting with the help of a parent.
Once I saw this buck coming in, I was pretty excited because I knew it was a buck, and I knew it was bigger than the first one I shot.
It's always exciting to see your kid shoot something and enjoy the outdoors and hunting a beautiful animal like the whitetail.
Yeah, it was just a pretty exciting moment for me.
So it's been like a pattern. I killed my first buck, Dad, second, Mom, third, Dad, fourth, Mom, and my fourth is my biggest.
Well, I didn't hunt probably until I was later in life, 20s, 30s. My dad hunted all the time, and I didn't really care for like gutting the deer, stuff like that. It doesn't have to be guys taking kids hunting, that moms can do it too, so I take them out and we get deer too.
Isabella Wink is another youngster whose parents helped her start hunting. Her dad gave her a pretty special gift for her 16th birthday.
We as a family have always applied for the Wisconsin elk tags. In 2023, I was selected as one of the 4 recipients for the tags. As part of that, I had elected to transfer the tag to my daughter here and give her the opportunity to harvest an elk in the state of Wisconsin. And she wasn't aware of it until her 16th birthday, and that was kind of her birthday present from us. It was to give her that tag.
While we were scouting, we did end up seeing one spike and a couple other smaller bulls too along the process.
We had positioned ourselves in some different areas to try and expand our visibility, knowing that the days were coming short. So she was by herself at the time that it happened, and she saw the opportunity, she saw the elk starting to feed out of the timber.
I started cow calling at the herd, and then I noticed a lot of the cows picked up their heads, and I realized, I'm like, wow, I'm busted. I'm like, I just messed this up. And then this wonderful bull started running right towards me, and that's when I knew, I'm like, this is my chance and I have to take it. So then I took my shots quickly and ethically, and that's how I harvested my bull.
I'm so proud of you.
Many of us hunt on private land, and some folks manage their land to improve habitat and forage for wildlife. Habitat consultant Michael Murphy gave Bob Langyar and his hunting friends some advice on improving deer habitat on Bob's farm in Fond du Lac County. You don't need a lot of land. You can apply some of these ideas on any size property and see results.
We need to find a spot where we got sheltered from the wind so the contours are in our favor, that we can plant a pine grove. This is where they'll be for the thermal protection in the wintertime. So not only the heavy snowstorms, but the cold winds. So this is exactly what we want. The bed of needles, the heavy canopy up there like that. So this is what we're looking for thermal protection. This is a great supplemental water source. It's nice, it's sheltered in an area that they're going to feel safe. Perfect location, secluded, well done. And this would be a great location for a food plot.
Okay. Do you like food plots normally close to water holes, or that doesn't?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And close to bedding areas. Okay. Your small internal food plot should always be near bedding areas, and you should have water sources. Don't ever allow deer to have to leave your property to get water because it's closer on the neighbors. So if it is that case, then you need to do a supplemental water source just like that one you did over there, which was done correctly.
20 years ago, we did some hinge cutting around here, and you can see that tree there. It's probably that old, but
I'm not a fan of hinge cutting, and I'll tell you why. Is when the trees die in 3 to 4 years, it's not thick enough where a trophy buck is going to bed. I think your time's more valuable spent using the material you've got here, laying here, and when you create your internal food plots and using that material to create a good bed that's going to last you years and years. Yeah, this is a great location. It's very secluded. The only thing, like I said, we need to work on is to thicken it up in some areas because you're creating a bedding area here, and they love to use red cedar for rubs. So that's the main reason for you planting some red cedar, but absolutely mix it up with your different species.
White cedar in here? Can I put a spruce in here?
Sure.
Balsam fir, whatever?
Yeah, just don't forget the red.
Yeah, okay.
But you know, it's isolated and it's a great location with contours, and this is exactly what we're looking for.
Well, Mike, what do you think of this place?
I think it's a really nice place. It's got a lot of great potential. I think already it's holding deer to some extent, but what we're going to do is we're going to make changes here that's going to attract and retain trophy bucks on this property. The main critical things here that we need to improve on here is he has a lot of open land, and we've got to make connections between those woods and bedding areas, and we can do that through things like switchgrass and planting additional trees.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do here because it's already got deer, and you've seen some of the deer they've taken off it, but you can bring it up a notch or two.
Oh, absolutely. And again, think what are you missing? You should never ever have something that the deer have to leave your property for. So whether it's a thermal protection in the wintertime, whether it's water, food sources, you want everything on your property so they never have to leave that property.
Last winter was one of the mildest on record in the Northern District, with no snow cover to speak of until late in the season. Good winter survival and strong fawn recruitment should put more deer in the woods this fall. The North offers a wide diversity of habitat types on both public and private land, from mixed hardwoods, aspen and conifers, to grasslands, wetlands and shrublands, and all of that provides food and cover for deer. This year's acorn crop was a bust in most areas, so deer will be seeking food elsewhere. Look for them in edge habitats, thick brush lines between food and bedding areas, and small forest openings. The Northeast District offers a diverse mix of deer habitat types that range from hardwood forest in Marinette and Oconto counties to the flatter agricultural and wetland areas of Winnebago, Fond du Lac, and Calumet counties. Both Marinette and Oconto counties are split into two deer management units by the boundary of the northern forest and central farmland zones. In the central counties, deer numbers are still above healthy levels in many areas. Plenty of antlerless permits are available, and these counties will have the holiday hunt and the extended archery season. In the southern and Lake Michigan portions of the district, deer habitat is more fragmented, and there's a lot more hunting pressure, especially on opening weekend. Every year, more deer hunters are looking at getting into reloading their own cartridges. So to learn more about how to do that, we thought we'd come to Mayville Engineering Company here in Mayville, Wisconsin, and Mech Outdoors in particular, a division of Mayville Engineering. And Sean Wozniak is the manager of Mech Outdoors. Sean, why are more hunters starting to reload their own ammunition?
You know, every year we get asked the same question, and a lot of it's availability, cost, basically customizing that round to whatever your needs are.
Will you show me how?
For sure. Let's go ahead and I will jump into it for you.
All right.
Put our safety glasses on. You already have glasses, just as a precaution. And what we're going to be doing today is actually loading instead of reloading. And we're still going to go through the process of reloading, but just utilizing new brass today. And we just want to do a little bit of lubrication on the brass, just so it doesn't get stuck in the die. And what we're going to do here, put our first case in, and we're going to run it all the way up into the die, back out. So the die has a taper in it for its neck, and then it's reforming or pushing that brass back into a factory spec. All right, so now we have our first 5 already resized. Now we have to go ahead and insert the primer into it. So we'll go ahead, we'll take our first one. What we're going to do is just a hand primer. So the primer's in here in the tray, it slides in. I'm going to just push and squeeze this. Okay, primer's inserted. So we'll go ahead and do the next one. So, okay, we have primers in all of our cases here. For the load that we're doing today, the recipe called for 42.9 grains of powder. So we'll go ahead and do our powder charges here. Just gonna need to rearrange the bench. And we'll turn our scale on here. So we're gonna go ahead and do our powder charge. We're gonna take our pan off the scale. We drop our powder. And right now it reads 41.8. And then what did I say we needed? 42.9 today? So we're gonna take our trickler, and this trickler is gonna spit out some kernels until we get up to the 42.9. All right, we're there. So we're gonna take our funnel. We're gonna dump our powder into the cartridge. We're gonna repeat that 5 more times.
So what does this do now?
So this is gonna be our bullet seating die. And before you came today, I made a dummy case or dummy round to get our full length, just to speed up setting the die again. So it's not primed, no powder, it's just giving us the overall length. So what we'll do is we'll put this in here. I'm gonna bring the handle all the way down, and then I turn this down until I feel resistance. So we're about right there. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we'll take our dummy case out. We're going to take one of our primed and charged. We're going to take a bullet. We're going to set the bullet in. And we're going to go ahead and seat that bullet. So we'll seat it all the way down. So the bullet's seating. We're going to go ahead and measure to make sure it matches what our dummy case was. Everything's right where it needs to be.
Well, Sean, that looks like a factory round, but we saw the precise steps that you followed to make this hand load. What are the overall advantages to a shooter?
Overall advantages: cost, performance, and the self-sufficient. You made that round, you're going to take it to the field, or we're taking this to the range. Just the confidence in knowing that you made that and you're going to be firing that downrange.
Well, let's take it to the range and see what we've got. Lindsay Minch of Campbellsport is a young woman who didn't allow a physical disability to keep her from becoming not only a hunter, but also a hunter education instructor.
I am big into the outdoors. I love hunting, fishing, being with my family.
When Lindsay came on as a student, she initially was a little laid back and a little bit reluctant, but progressively as things went on, she adapted very, very well.
I was born with a neuromuscular genetic disease called spinal muscular atrophy. It essentially is a muscle weakness disease that affects every part of the body. Therefore, I use a powered wheelchair to get around and do the day-to-day activities in addition to any of the many hobbies that I do have.
We take a lot of pride in teaching all individuals who have any kind of needs. We have a lot of those that we teach from all over the area. But Lindsay came on pretty special. It was about her interaction with the other students and with the instructors.
When I passed the hunter safety class, starting at 12 years old, I knew I definitely want to be involved in the outdoors and specifically deer hunting. It's always a rush to see that deer in front of you. And of course, I love shooting my rifles. That's a big thing. My first buck that I harvested was up in Taylor, Wisconsin through a disabled hunt. And that year, I saw so many trophy buck. It was incredible. To this day, I can still see it in my brain, and it was amazing. On the very last night of the hunt, out of the 3-day hunt that I was on, we saw a 7-pointer come out about 100 yards, I believe, in front of us. I was able to get a shot on him, double lung actually, I believe it was. Great opportunity all around and really kind of starting the career in hunting for me. An elk hunt was actually one of my dream hunts, if you want to call it that, the bucket list checkoff. It was a donated hunt by the Outdoor Adventure Foundation. We were able to take my entire family up there for the trip, up in Rame, North Dakota, which is almost in Montana, and go on this elk hunt. The elk hunt itself was quicker than most of my other harvests, meaning that I got it on day one, lucky. It wasn't easy whatsoever. There was definitely a lot of rough terrain that we had to navigate through essentially to get to where we needed to be, but when we did, came out about 294 yards away and was able to harvest that beauty of an elk, and definitely a trip of a lifetime that I'll never forget. My rifle is my favorite. It is a 270. It's my favorite thing out there, and I love the rifle. It shoots very nicely, and on average, it can do 220 yards plus. I do use a gun mount. I use a modified joystick that moves the gun up, down, left, and right, and then 2 buttons, one for the safety and one for the trigger. I also have a scope that was modified actually by my father to bring it back to me so I can see it from sitting back in the wheelchair versus leaning forward on the gun. After being a hunter for a number of years, I wanted to get the opportunity to instruct others, to really show them how to be safe in the woods, how to know about and why wildlife management is important. And I was taught by a great group of individuals. So giving back and being able to teach others what I love and what I'm passionate about, that's really why I decided to become a hunter safety instructor. I really find hands-on learning to be a vital role in the hunter education. And essentially what I've seen, even with myself, is that there's nothing better than to have someone show you how to do something. And that's really why I decided to, give a testimony in front of the individuals at the state capitol, because it is that important to me. To this day, I fully believe that if an adolescent doesn't experience hands-on training in the classroom and in the field, they will miss out on the visual learning and real-world experiences. On top of that, they will never understand the ethical responsibilities they hold as hunters. I feel that without that hands-on instruction, there's an opportunity to, not only have me and you at risk in the woods, but the child won't really understand the full importance of, what exactly hunting is and how to be safe while doing it. And overall, again, going back to, the wildlife part of it, the wildlife management side of it too.
The West Central District offers some of the most productive deer habitat anywhere in the United States, with fertile farmland, wooded ridges, and calcium-rich soils that contribute to healthy deer and fantastic antler development. Last winter's mild weather had little or no impact on deer, and early green-up provided good nutrition. There's a substantial elk herd now in Jackson County, so be sure you know the difference between a deer and an elk, and if you're not sure, don't shoot. CWD has been detected now in most counties of the district, and hunters are advised to have their deer tested for the disease. Deer habitat in the Southern District ranges from the wooded ridges and coulees of the Southwest to the flat, productive farmlands of the South Central counties and the urbanized corridor along Lake Michigan. Most deer harvested here are taken on private property, which makes up more than 90% of the landscape. But there are thousands of acres of county, state, and federal lands open to deer hunting. Deer numbers are still high in most counties despite ample antlerless permits, and this year 15 counties will offer the antlerless-only holiday hunt and 12 will host the extended archery crossbow season. Last year, most of the nearly 1,600 CWD-positive deer detected statewide came from the Southern District. Testing your deer for CWD before consuming the meat is a good idea. Getting a deer tested for chronic wasting disease is mandatory if you shoot it in a CWD-affected county and you plan to donate it to families in need through the DNR's Deer Donation Program. John Ozzy Oswald of Westby did just that with a deer he shot in Vernon County last year during the archery season. Hunting a wooded hillside on a warm November morning, Ozzy made a perfect 30-yard shot on a doe that ran only a few yards before expiring. After waiting a short time, Ozzy crossed a dry creek bed and walked up the hill to where the deer had stood. He soon found the blood trail, followed it a short distance, and recovered the deer. He took the deer to Westby taxidermist Matt Tainter, who took tissue samples for CWD testing, and then he took the carcass to Westby Locker and Meats, filled out some simple paperwork, and left the deer to be processed into ground venison for local food pantries. Since the Deer Donation Program began 25 years ago, Wisconsin hunters have donated nearly 100,000 deer, totaling 4 million pounds of venison to help families in need. If you want to help, the DNR's Deer Donation page has plenty of information, along with a list of participating deer processors. Most of us would be happy to shoot a 10-pointer like this, right? Well, last season, Georgia Vesperman, a member of the Lancaster High School trap shooting team, shot a dandy 10-point buck that turned out to be, well, something else.
The history with this deer started about 3 years ago. I had trail camera photos of it, and I had seen it from the tree stand that Georgia was sitting in. The next year it was same thing, a little bit bigger, a little wider, and then this year it showed back up in early November in full velvet. And about 2 weeks later, I got a trail camera video of the deer walking away, and I noticed what looked that there was no testicles there. So I started to wonder if there was something a little different about this deer. And then in rifle season, it stepped out opening afternoon, and it squatted to urinate, and the urine came out the back end. So that about confirmed my suspicions. I had seen the deer 3 nights in a row and decided it'd be best for a kid to shoot it. They would get the most enjoyment, so I let Jerry's kids sit in the stand, and Georgia was the lucky hunter.
Sunday night, closing night, at about 4 p.m. this doe came out. My dad had saw it and then waited for it to come out a little bit more before telling me that that was the one. And then he had me pull up my gun and I shot it. I'd say we got out of the stand just a little bit before dark. That way we were able to go up and see that she was down. I kind of talked to my dad. I was like, well, he's not the biggest buck. But then we finally pulled her out, really looked at her and realized it was a doe. And it was just nice to experience it with my dad and then having my cousin and uncle here too.
The stand back there along the edge of the woods is where she took the shot from, all the way over here to this field here, and we knew it was our only chance of getting a shot at this deer. You know, it was a great feeling, and the smile on her face said it all.
Okay, so what's the proper pronoun for a female deer with male headgear? He, she, they? And more important, how do you register it? Well, the law says because it has antlers, you're registered as a buck, even though it's a doe. Go figure. Well, one thing I do know about headgear is this. For generations, the Stormy Cromer cap has been the headgear of choice for deer hunters, lumberjacks, and Northwoods timber cruisers. Here's Hap Dawes of Platteville with a tongue-in-cheek look at proper Stormy Cromer etiquette.
Cromer's been around a long time, and it's got a lot of traditions. And there are rules that govern the use and the appearance of a Cromer. And as you see on the hat that I have here on my knee, and this, by the way, this is the only place to store a Cromer when it's not on your head, is you hang it on your knee. When you go to church, that's where you put your Cromer, is on your knee, on your leg. But any pins you put on there only go on the right side of the hat. Nowhere else, just on the right side of the hat. Now you can put as many dry flies as you want anywhere on that hat, and that's okay. But you never more than 2 pins. And union pins, you know, especially the carpenter's union pins or the engineer's union pins are quite acceptable on there, but they're one of the 2 pins. So you got to keep that in mind. And always remember, when you put your Cromer on in the morning, that Cromer stays on all day. The only time it comes off your head a little bit is when, hello man, good to see you today. It's just a tip of the hat to your lady friends, and you had to live north of Highway 8 in order to wear a Cromer. Otherwise, you were in definite violation of the Cromer rules. So remember that, and stay with the proper way to wear your Cromer, and wear it well.
Stormy Cromer caps are made in Ironwood, Michigan. We told Stormy Cromer owner and chairman Bob Jacquart that Hap needs a new cap for deer season, and Bob sent him one.
Bob, you know, I visited you in a canvas shop up there in the UP, and always thought you had good products. Now I have a hat that's signed by Bob right here, the orange new traditional hunting cap. Thank you very much.
Say, Bob, my cap's a little faded too. You wouldn't have one in my size now, would you? Regardless of what you're shooting this year, before you head into the woods, be sure to sight in. And there are lots of private and public ranges around the state where you can do that. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Deer Hunt Wisconsin. You'll find links for more information on the Deer Hunt Wisconsin Facebook page and the DNR website. And all the segments from this year's show are posted on our Deer Hunt Wisconsin TV YouTube channel. I'm Dan Small. Thanks for joining us, and have a safe and successful deer season.